YouTube friends, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead, and today we're going to go ahead and talk about how to preserve basil. So this is the end of our garden season here, and I am frantically trying to gather up all of the extra leftover herbs out there that I haven't gotten to yet. This morning I picked a ton of basil and some comfrey and some marshmallow leaf and a few other things, but I want to get this basil taken care of. So we're going to go ahead and preserve some in salt. Now there's two different ways you can do this. There's the dry method and the wet method. And I'm going to actually do both, and I'll tell you why in just a moment. But the first thing we need to do is we need to chop up the basil. All right, so when you're chopping your basil, especially when you've got late season basil like this, you're gonna find some really woody stems. So you need to discard these. I'm gonna throw these in my little kitchen composter down here. And I'm looking for the leaves that are, loosely chopped up. They don't have to be super chopped, but chopped enough. And because I gave these a good rinse, I'm going to be sure I use a towel to dry everything off. And then we'll go on to the next step. All right, so I've gone ahead and very, very coarsely chopped up my basil and removed the leaves from the stems. And I just want to mention something here because you might be wondering about all the flowers that were on the basil. I know the prime time to harvest your basil is before it flowers and goes to seed. But honestly, I don't like to waste anything, and I've still got all this basil out there that I'm trying to harvest and bring in. So I'm speaking for myself. I do not mind extra plant bits, so I'm not letting anything go to waste. And I just want to also say it smells so good in here. And basil, by the way, contains a chemical called linalool. It's a terpene that calms you down while also helping your brain to focus. So just a little interesting tidbit about basil. And if you don't have the plant, you could absolutely use the essential oil for that. All right, so if you're deciding to use coarse salt or really, chunky salt, you could actually throw your salt into the food processor with your basil at this point. I'm using salt that is pretty chunky, but I personally like the texture, so I'm going to leave it alone. This is totally up to you. You can make your final product as fine or as chunky as you like. And I'm kind of a fan of chunky. So let's go ahead and get this blended or processed up. Okay, I just want to show you what this looks like because I'm not pulverizing it completely. What I'm doing is just chopping it so I've got small bits of leaves, okay? I still want to see the leaves. I want the herb to maintain its integrity basically and not be a complete mash. And what that will do is it's going to make your infused salt very, very beautiful, and more of the plant compounds will be retained as well. So I'm going to go ahead and finish mashing or coarsely grinding, very coarsely grinding. Again, here's what it kind of looks like, if you can see that. My basil, and I'll be right back. All right, so what I started with is about 3 cups of packed basil leaves, okay? And I'm just gonna go ahead and now put the pulverized, coarsely mashed leaves into this bowl. And I'm going to take a cup of salt and pour that in there. And then I'm going to take some black pepper. I'm gonna use about a tablespoon of black pepper. You can use more or less to taste if you like. And I'm going to use some powdered organic garlic. Sometimes if I have enough garlic, I will powder it and grow it myself. Like from my garden this year, our garlic harvest wasn't that great. So here we go. And now what you're going to do is you're just going to stir everything together. It's going to look really beautiful. If you want to add more salt, you certainly can. The salt is what's going to absorb the moisture and preserve the herb, okay? So now let's talk about the 2 different methods for preserving your basil in salt. So one is called the wet method. That's basically where we're at right here. This is definitely a very moist mixture. because of the moisture from the basil leaves and also little bits of water that were still on there. And you just want to kind of get it to a nice consistency. I had a lot of moisture in this basil, so I'm going to actually add another, like I might say about a 1/4 cup of salt. And alrighty. The salt I'm using is actually from a dry lake bed in Mexico, and it also contains moisture. It's not a super dry salt, but I really love it because it's rich in minerals. And by the way, that's the kind of salt you should be using for this, is some kind of mineral-rich salt, like Himalayan salt, being sure it's pure, of course, or Redmond's sea salt. There's many other kinds too. All right, so now I've got this just the way I want it. Very lovely. And I can hardly wait to use this. So I've got a little, these are some of my favorite little mason jars. They're flat, they're 1/2 cup mason jars. And I really love these. So if you want to do the wet method, you can just simply take your mixture as it is right now, add it to a jar, put a lid on top, and put it in the refrigerator. And this will last in the fridge for up to 6 months. It may not last quite that long, but I'll tell you what, when you've got this in your fridge, I'm gonna make some soup tonight. This is going in my soup. In fact, I think I'll add a little more in here because it doesn't last. This won't last, but these do make lovely, lovely gifts. And now I'm going to show you how to use the dry method, and that's going to preserve it for the long term. So this is going in my refrigerator, the wet method. So for the dry method, what you're going to want is a dehydrator. Now, I don't recommend that you use your oven on the lowest setting. I know a lot of people like to do that when they're dehydrating things, but with very tender herbs like basil, it's not a good idea. So I've got a dehydrator, and I'm going to put parchment paper on top so that nothing sinks in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and spread my herb salt out. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, if you wanted to just lay this out in a warm room and spread it thinly with some airflow, it should be just fine, okay? And now I'm gonna go ahead and set this, I'm gonna set the dehydrator on the herb setting, okay? Which is about 105 degrees. And I'm just going to let this go until those herbs in this mixture are very, very dry. And I feel very good about bottling it up and storing it for the long term. All right, nice. This, I wish you could smell this. It just smells so wonderful. All right, so now it's going in my dehydrator. All righty, so here I've got a tray in here for my dehydrator. And this is what it looks like in a dehydrator. It's very moist right now and smells really good. I'm just going to let this dry for, a few hours. And you can feel it and kind of tell when yours gets dry. And I want to show you, I forgot I had plums in there that I dried from the tree. And luckily they're doing great, but these have been sitting in there for like a week now. So I'm going to get these bottled up too. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this quick little video on how to make and preserve herbal salt. This is one of my favorite ways to preserve those delicious herbs that you have in your garden. You're going to still get the medicinal and therapeutic benefits, and you can cook with them, and they're just delicious, and they make fabulous gifts. The dried salt I've got going on over there can actually be put into cute little jars as well with those little cute wooden spoons. They make a fabulous gift. So you might want to consider getting these done right now, and that way you've got some little presents at the holiday time all ready to go. All right, I'm Heidi Villegas with Healing Harvest Homestead. I hope you enjoyed this quick little self-reliance video, and please subscribe to my channel. And if you want to get a free herbal remedy guide, I've got one for you. It is amazing and you will love it. I also have a book, I'll leave the link in the description below, for how to relax using herbs and essential oils, and it's really helpful. So please take advantage of those free gifts from me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.